Ho, 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 and good morning to Friday's OTB AM. It's just gone a quarter to 8 on this Friday morning. We're delighted to have you along with us. We've decorated the studio. Some of us have decorated ourselves. Eoin, Sheahan.
Good morning. Wow, Jesus, that is some hat.
It's bright.
I didn't actually see that this morning until now.
I hit the streets last night, sort of trying to get ahead of the sort of country folk Christmas, which is, I think, tomorrow that they descend on Dublin City to spend all that money under the mattress and get themselves stocked up for Christmas. So I had to hit the streets yesterday to get a bit ahead of the rush.
Yeah, the key is...
Just thought I'd pick up the hat while I was at it.
The key is to go to Argos, buy the most popular kids' toy, then go to Houston Station and sell them at a marked up price and say, get back on your train there.
Is this what you've been doing, is it?
Yes, it's my big business model.
Very good. What did you write off to Santa for?
I've written off to Santa for nothing, and I haven't received any letters from people either. So basically, I haven't bought a thing. I don't know what I want. But if there's any tips out there this morning, I would be greatly appreciative of that. What are you getting for?
Extremely well prepared.
Anybody in your life?
I'm getting a PlayStation 17 or whatever the latest version of it is that's out. I'm getting a LOL.
You're getting a LOL.
Yeah.
What's a LOL?
And I'm getting a surprise. Listen, it's the kids are all over that stuff these days.
You're
not up with the 2018 terminology.
Hold on a minute. You're getting a LOL. What do you mean you're getting a LOL?
I've just out millennialed you with my knowledge of what the kids are into these days. It's the hot new prize for present for 2018.
Let's just leave that one there. Are you actually getting a PlayStation?
No.
No. Okay. Right.
I mean, I'm assuming I'm probably getting next to nothing, but...
Well, you got a new arrival for Christmas. Congratulations, Adrian.
Thanks very much, yeah.
Since it's my first time back since your return from paternity leave.
Yeah, thanks
Congratulations.
Very much. Thanks a lot.
That's the only Christmas present you could ask for.
Absolutely. That everybody's healthy and happy.
That's what you're supposed to say.
You could probably do it getting a bit of... There's cream, there's some sort of cream you can get to...
Arnica.
Arnica. Are you using it?
No.
Right.
I have a tube. I used it twice.
Right.
And it started to sting.
It's healing quite well, actually, to be fair.
Thank you very much.
Are you concerned
big healer.
That, little sort of, the way in boxing parlance when the fighter gets a bit of a nick somewhere in the face, that the opponent will continue to nab away at it a little bit to try and open it up a bit more? Are you concerned that it won't have fully healed by middle of February?
Well, you're speaking like I'm a mere mortal here. I'm obviously invincible to those sort of things, and I'm not your regular fighter.
That's true.
That sort of thing will not occur to me.
You'll do well in the pre-fight press conferences because you haven't answered my question.
What was your question again?
Are you concerned that...
Well, a man who's invincible harbours no concern.
Or answers no questions, it turns out.
Well, I can. Concern is the furthest thing from my mind when I'm beating somebody to a pulp.
Right. Tip of the cap to you, and good morning to you, and welcome along. We're with you between now and about 9:30 or thereabouts, and lots of good stuff coming your way. So do keep your comments coming into us. We're going to be getting stuck into the sports pages very shortly, this morning's back pages, and a lot of them do cover that story about painkillers in sport. The comments of Brian O'Driscoll and Off the Ball this week, so we'll be picking that up in the company of Alan Quinlan in just a little bit and get his take on exactly how he saw that unfold over the course of his career. Owen's been in conversation with Rocky Ross Muck, aka Seán Mannion. That's coming your way at about 8:25. The Champions Cup conversation. Quinny will be back with us a bit later in the show where we'll discuss the live rugby this weekend, and we have a world exclusive for you as well this morning. That's at it'll be about 9 o'clock. I mean, the 10 to 9 is a little bit optimistic. It's going to be about 9 o'clock or thereabouts, where our own Enda Call has jetted all the way over to Vancouver for the Whitecaps. Owen's been in conversation with him. It's a world exclusive. It's coming your way a bit later on.
It's actually
done enough to sell forward to it.
Yeah, it's very good to watch. A little mini documentary made on Canadian soil about the Vancouver Whitecaps. There's a few lessons we can take from the idea that there are Canadian people sitting in their cities watching a largely Indigenous team doing good things and actually enjoying their team succeeding and enjoying local players succeeding for a football franchise. The thing obviously is, and we talk about this later on, is that we're comparing the MLS with League of Ireland here, which is a vastly different thing when it comes to finances and all that sort of stuff.
And also the proximity of arguably the best league in the world on our doorstep.
Yes,
versus football up the road.
There is very much that, but still, it is intriguing to see that Canadian people can enjoy football on their own doorstep a little bit more than we can. Or but maybe that's our fault. Maybe it's not the football's fault.
Yeah, I like the way that we've gone to make this documentary about sort of sport in another far-flung part of the world, and all we can do is not resist the temptation to hold the mirror up to ourselves and say, well, look, aren't we just bad people?
We're just self-obsessed as human beings, I think.
Right, time for the papers.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
All right, 8 minutes to 8. If you're on your commute this morning, a very good morning to you. Do get in contact with us. We want to hear from you over the course of the morning, whatever it is, or wherever you are. Let us know, and we'll bring those comments to our viewers over the course of the day. We're going to start with the Irish Times this morning, and it is rugby all the way. That's the live rugby this weekend all the way, at least. Jerry Thornley there, Leinster and Munster best placed, heading into pivotal rounds. Omani expecting massive challenge from Cast. That's ahead of the Heineken Cup this weekend, and Ulster looking to break Scarlet's hoodoo, as well as the other article there by Johnny Watterson, who also writes some interesting stuff on the flip side of that page. O'Driscoll painkiller comments open a can of worms in rugby, so this is the tap, I think, that's really been opened with Brian O'Driscoll's comments on painkillers in rugby this week, and also Gavin Cummins picks up on the topic below that. Cullen rejects claim that painkiller use is a problem in Irish rugby. This is the Leinster head coach conversation at his press conference yesterday. Inevitably, and clearly the fact that he played alongside Brian O'Driscoll for such a large part of his career, it was a topic that was always going to come up. He is interesting enough in what he says about it, in that his main comments, and I absolutely don't wish to misrepresent him here, so his main comments I've highlighted in the Mail, actually, on just inside that page there, rather than me take a stab at sort of summarising what he's saying. Leo Cullen says there's an image of medication being just handed out willy-nilly is a very unfair reflection on the environment we have here at the moment. All I'm really concerned about is the environment we have here at the moment. I'm not really interested in dragging up things from the past. That would be my view, is what Leo Cullen says. Now, like, it is worthwhile dragging up things from the past is one thing that I would say. Like, I sort of make this point on somewhat of a regular basis that as a nation we don't have the most amazing track record of talking about things that have gone on here in the past, and it turns out that it's worthwhile and it's useful, and shining a torch into that dark corner that certainly is Brian O'Driscoll's experience, and you'd have to assume that it's not all that unique. I mean, I understand why Leo Cullen, on the couple of days out from a fairly pivotal point in Leinster season, that he doesn't overly want to get into it, but I would just think that the notion of not dragging up things from the past is somewhat outdated. Yeah,
completely. We are a nation that obviously the idea of leaving things in the past or leaving things behind closed doors because it's in the past isn't something that served us very well as a country. And obviously there are things when it comes to sport that kind of abide by those laws as well, and this is one of those things you would suspect. Now the thing, obviously, as you point out, is that Leo Cullen does have a match to prepare for this weekend. This is probably the last thing he wanted to be asked about. It's the last thing any coach wants to be asked about going into a game. It would be ideal if things were going very badly for Leinster at the moment. Now, granted, they did lose their last Champions Cup game. It would be a lovely deflection tactic. I don't think anybody in Irish rugby really needs any deflection tactics at the moment. They can feel free to sit at the top table and talk about the rugby all they want. Now, the thing I would say is that you talk about shining a light on something as if this is like the Boston Globe Spotlight team doing a deep dive investigation. It was literally Brian O'Driscoll sitting in this seat, just being as blasé as you like, talking about something that seemed like he was just chatting over a pint about the weather. The only thing is that, you're right, but the only thing is that it will, like, it's already happened on our show. It's in every newspaper you pick up today has got Leo Cullen's reaction to it. A lot of them have opinion pieces from the various journalists across the back pages giving their comment on it. This is a tap that will remain open for some time in terms of people's capacity to talk about it, and that's really what I mean in terms of the spotlight is that, it's something that we, I think, have all suspected has been a part of elite sport, and actually from what you hear just from sport in general, from people that have been in contact with us saying that I play a bit of five-a-side, I couldn't get through it without diving. It's interesting, and one of the things that Johnny Watterson talks about in his piece today is a reference back to an archive piece from a couple of years ago in the Irish Times that talks about the impact of diving, particularly the anti-inflammatory anti-hero. Is how it was phrased in that piece. This stuff is not good for you when it's used over a consistent period of time, and when you remove all the other conversations about it in terms of whether it's doping or whether it's performance enhancing or performance enabling, actually that's kind of the important piece that's left. Mm-hmm. I often wonder this, like, philosophically, if you were in the position where you're a professional rugby player now, and it was as simple, I know it's not as simple as this, but if it was as simple as Diphene can help you survive your last 5 years of your career, are you taking Diphene on a regular basis, even if you know long-term consequences?
It's hypothetical, but as much as you can possibly tell, you most likely are.
I would say most definitely.
Yeah. Now, the only counterpoint to that would be that if I was exposed to a lot of conversation about it, and a lot of information and a lot of knowledge about the impact that Diphene can have in you in the long term. And I was reading the various stories that are out there and in rugby as well, of players who've been impacted on by the continual use of drugs like Diphene. That might have some impact on my decision to eat this stuff.
My view on it is that the short-term gain can actually become a long-term gain. And I know it's wrong, but I say to myself, okay, if I get through these next 2 years successfully, I want to get that final 2-year contract or 3-year contract or whatever it may be. And then that stuff will pay for my medical costs down the road if things get very grim. Maybe that's just way too much of a short-term view, but I'm not, like, I do wonder if you're a professional athlete and you've actually been ingrained in a culture all your life, perhaps that view is hardened further. It's easy for us to say on the outset, I could easily commit to the cause, but if you're actually in the cause, if this is your livelihood, if this is, like, say if you play for Leinster and you've worn a blue jersey for your entire career, it makes it a more compelling case that you would kind of sacrifice whatever the long-term. And the thing is, it's no guarantee of long-term deficiencies, is it? There is a danger there, but there's still no guarantee that
no, well, Brian himself says, look, I feel absolutely fine. He said, come back to me when I'm 75 and I'll tell you how I'm at. Now, like, one of the most interesting parts of what he was saying, as far as I was concerned, was to do with the fact that it was mostly the older players who was taking it. So it generally wasn't the young fellas who were kind of grand or could get over an injury pretty quickly, or the pain wasn't as bad. They could just manage it, whereas it was a lot of the older fellas who just were struggling to get through a week.
Yeah, which is fairly understandable, or fairly expected. If you said that loads of people are taking painkillers, you hardly expect the young lads to be taking it. If you are quite young and you're reliant on Diphene, you're in a bit of trouble, I suspect. Yeah.
We'll talk to Alan Quinlan about this a little bit later on. He's going to be with us in a few minutes' time to discuss all of that. It's a theme that's also picked up in the Irish Examiner this morning, medication and rugby under the spotlight, but Cullen dismisses talk of a painkiller culture. That is in the Irish Examiner this morning, and Ronan O'Gara there as well. The rest of Europe, here's a warning, keep an eye on Munster, who are in action. Obviously a huge game for them against Cast this weekend. In the Irish Independent this morning, it is Donegal break €1 million mark as price of success rises. Writes Colm Keys here, Ulster champions join big spenders club while Kerry highlight challenge of backroom costs. The biggest thing about this really is how unsurprising almost it is. Now, it's just another county that have topped some sort of a monopoly type money ceiling.
Yeah, basically, it's.
I'm not shocked by any of these numbers.
No.
Like, at some point or another, it'll be a vast number of 1 million, and Dublin will probably hit it first, and Kerry will come in somewhere, and Mayo will come in, and so suddenly it's just a thing that's done. This is what happens.
The thing is, obviously, and Keys pointed out in the article, is that the spending that Donegal are now going with is far bigger than their All-Ireland winning challenge. So in the space of 6 years, things have got exponentially larger at a rate that they probably haven't grown at before. That's obviously for a number of reasons. You would say that the elitism over the last 10 years in the GEA has developed at a rate that no other decade in the GEA has seen. And also with the economic recovery, people are throwing around money much more liberally. There's also the advent of tours to the United States from a lot of these counties, like Harry has mentioned there. They've had very successful trips, very lucrative trips to the United States, and all that ties into the ability that you can spend as much as you think warrants an All-Ireland challenge. And the view really is now that to challenge the Dubs, you need to be as professional as the Dubs, and it does come back to them ultimately when it comes to these football teams. They all want to win All-Irelands, and who are you looking at if you want to win an All-Ireland? You're looking at the best in the business, and to be honest with you, there is the perception out there that to beat the Dubs, you got to spend like the Dubs, and that may not be an honest appraisal, and that's probably not fair on Dublin, but you've got to do every little thing you possibly can.
Well, I think people accept that it's certainly a factor in the bigger picture of things.
Sure.
That it facilitates higher level of professionalism, to use that word.
Yeah, I think they're all factors in this. So, like, as you say, it's not surprising at all, but the figures are there in black and white by Colin Keys.
Darren Saran, by the way, on YouTube says, please cut down the painkillers content by at least 75% from yesterday. Was there a lot of painkillers chat yesterday?
I would say we're going to be down by 75% today, so don't worry about that.
Also in the Irish Independent this morning, Cullen expects Lancaster to remain with Leinster. It was a bit of a, I don't know if you saw these quotes, I heard these quotes yesterday, but it was a bit of a lukewarm sort of a, like, do I think he'll be around? Yeah, I kind of think he'll be around. I mean, in a way that, to be fair, I guess it's very difficult for Leo Cullen to, he's not going to be giving anything concrete on it one way or the other, but he's obviously a man in demand. Is Stuart Lancaster, rightly so.
Yeah, he basically said he's happy with Leinster. Joe Schmidt is currently happy with Ireland and he's leaving. Just because he can leave in a happy place. So I'm not sure if you're a Leinster fan and you desperately want Stuart Lancaster to stay beyond 12 months' time, if that's actually really a seal of approval for an opinion that he is going to stay, to be honest.
A nice picture as well there on the back page of a couple of Connacht players, Ultan Delan and James Connolly. Yesterday at Galway Hospice, launching a new relationship between Connacht Rugby and the Galway Hospice, so a nice thing to do there. And another nice shot that caught my eye, Owen, inside the Irish Independent today in the Gaelic Games section, a piece by Cliona Foley here, ahead of the All-Ireland Intermediate Club final, upcoming Clontarf against Emmett Ogue here, and it was a shot actually that had come up a couple of weeks ago that probably passes by a little bit at the time, but it's 4 players from Emmett Ogue with a bunch of kids, and I know at the time I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of players with their kids. It looks like a really nice shot. And then today I started to look a bit deeper, and it was Michaela Newell with her 13-week-old baby, and I thought, oh my God, that's an incredible thing. You've mentioned, obviously, we've had a new arrival in the house, not 4 weeks, and from my perspective, I certainly wouldn't be looking to, if I was in any way capable of playing any elite sort of sport, I wouldn't be looking to get back to it anytime soon. That's just me, obviously, having been through absolutely nothing. Marion McCarville with her 12-month-old, and then Charlotte McManaman with her 4-week-old. That's incredible.
It is. That's some going.
A lovely shot there. And Anita Newell holding Charlotte's 2-year-old. So that's in the Irish Independent today, page 56. That's your one there. And I think the last one for me is the Racing Post. Aston Thrilla.
Well, it's Aston Thriller.
I know that, but it doesn't really work when you say it that way.
Just for radio listeners.
Aston Thrilla.
Don't let Adrian Barry trick you into believing that the Racing Post said the term thriller on the back of their newspaper this morning.
They should have done.
They should have done, obviously. Back page of the Irish Daily Mail is IRFU by back rugby chief saying the pain protocols are all in order. Back of the Herald this morning is we must shack it up. Pool Ace wants Reds to be brave in pursuit of City, while Gibraltar are aiming to spring a surprise. So they believe they can use home advantage to frustrate Ireland in the Euro 2020 qualifiers, apparently. Back page of
Was it Gibraltar that we played in Portugal? I mean, I was actually, from scant recollection, actually at this game. Faro.
Was it in Faro for the last World Cup qualifying campaign?
I think so.
It was. I thought it was in Spain. To be honest with you, I don't actually remember the Gibraltar games, funnily enough.
I saw Nathan Murphy retweeting a story during the week about the Spanish, some arm of the Spanish Defence Forces sailing by Gibraltar playing the Spanish national anthem at full belt.
Proper trolling right there. Back of the Sun this morning is £40 million to get Poch. United line up mega raid for Spurs boss. We'll get back to that in a moment. You can also see Joe Gomez there in a moon boot. He's got a broken leg. He's going to be out for 6 weeks. Just a quick look at the front of the Sun this morning. High Goon says the top of this page. Arsenal aces pass out in hippie crack binge at nightclub. Another story we're going to sink our teeth into. We're going to inhale that story in full flow in a few moments. Back of the Mirror is Sturridge. Sturridge cheat. Furious Dyche accuses Liverpool striker of diving. It is the beef we didn't expect to see in the Premier League. It's Seán Dyche versus Daniel Sturridge. It's the fight we didn't need, but it's the fight we did need, really, when you actually see some of the quotes. It's pretty good stuff. And it says it on the back of the Irish Daily Star as well. Cheat. Dyche blasts diving Danny. And a couple of the other stories here. Lukaku and Pog must go, says Paul Ince. And Leo says drugs are used safely and not all rosy at Wembley. Danny Rowe says the process of playing at Wembley has lost its magic and he can't wait to get moved into the new White Hart Lane. Back of The Guardian this morning, it's an interesting one. They've got an exclusive interview with Frankie de Jong. I want to finish the season well with Ajax, then we'll see. And West Ham on the spot, says Jacob Steinberg. Fan on official supporters board marched with DFLA. And an interesting one as well, carried in the Daily Telegraph this morning, revealed the true scale of rugby's mental health crisis.
All right, that's it. Very good. We have Alan Quinlan in studio next. He's going to talk to us about the painkiller stories of this week, and the thing that kicked it all off, of course, Brian O'Driscoll on Wednesday Night Rugby.
Well, I would have been privy to that, where I'd have been part of teams where on the way to a game a doctor would have walked down the bus on the way to the game and inquired as to who wanted what in advance of it. For me, for the last couple of seasons anyway, would have been part of, you know, my match prep would have been a Difene and a couple of Cocodamol.
What would they do for you?
Again, just a painkiller, just if I was carrying something that it would just, do you know what, it almost became like habit, where it gave me a fighting chance if I wasn't feeling 100%, that it might have leveled it up. And
which might have been most of the time.
Which was probably a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that is the reality of it. And
if you,
I wouldn't have been the only one doing that.
Yeah.
It was usually the older players, just to try and get you, you know, balance the equilibrium almost of feeling okay. And then I'm sure at times without, you know, in my subconscious, I would have taken it because it became part and parcel, where maybe I could have done without it. But again, you know, if it's perfectly legal and, you know, there's no need for TUEs, or any of that, you know, like, yeah, give yourself a chance of playing your best game.
So it was almost akin to your glucose drink and your energy drink and your whatever.
I also had caffeine before games.
Yeah.
You know, I'd have three little tablets of caffeine, like chewing gum. You know, chew them for a certain period of time. But like, you get into a routine where I knew exactly what I did. I had it down to the final seconds, chewing, and as soon as I ran out onto the pitch, I'd bin it.
Yeah, Brian O'Driscoll on Wednesday Night Rugby this week, and has kicked off a larger conversation about the use of painkillers in sport. I'm delighted to say Alan Quinlan has joined us in studio as always on a Friday. Morning, Quinny.
Morning, Adrian.
Doppelganger jumpers there, good work.
Good shout,
You matched up before you text each other before you left the house this morning.
Yeah, we always do.
The
on Fridays
wine
we were
this
red.
morning, yeah.
Absolutely.
Very good, yeah. Right, the topic of painkillers obviously has been dominating the headlines post Brian's comments on Wednesday Night Rugby during the week. What's your experience?
My experience is I've taken painkillers, I've taken anti-inflammatories. Did I take them every match? No, I didn't. Everybody's different, I think. I suppose there's a lot of physical contact in rugby, and sometimes the most attritional part of the week is maybe not the game and some weeks, but it's sometimes in training you get a lot of bangs and knocks as well from the physical contact there. So yeah, I've taken them. I think it's people have a divided opinion on this, whether it's right or wrong, or is it performance enhancing, is it performance enabling. I believe if you know, there's a responsibility on the player as well to understand what they're taking, why they're taking it, and is there long-term effects. And so we're not kids either, you know what I mean? I suppose you don't want to create a culture in sport where, you know, the word habit and getting into the habit of taking something that, even from a psychological point of view, that it helps you, and that you feel you're getting an edge or you're getting through the game. But my experience of it is, you know, people who take anti-inflammatories or painkillers are taken for a specific reason, to get through the game and to prepare themselves. Now, some people may, you know, question the moral side of that. Is it right? Is it wrong? Are you risking injury? I can only speak for myself that I've never taken an anti-inflammatory with the thought that, God, this is going to long term, it's going to damage me. It was always with the view that, you know, I have some sort of discomfort in my ankle or my neck or my shoulder, and that it's going to help me take away a bit of that pain and allow me play. I don't think the numbing the pain scenario that people sometimes say, I don't think that wasn't the case with me. I never tried to numb pain. If I thought that I was going to do damage and I was going to get through this game this Saturday and then maybe not really know where I'm at in the next couple of weeks, and that I could be damaging myself and I could be risking being out for a number of weeks, I would certainly not go down that road. And that's probably the difference between getting an injection. I had an injection once in my career, actually twice, once in 1998 for a shoulder injury when I got called into the Irish squad. damaged my shoulder in a Munster game. I was called up to the squad, and I damaged part of my supraspinatus, a kind of a ligament or a tendon, and it was very inflamed, so it was really tender and sore. So I got an injection of an anti-inflammatory and cortisone to alleviate that pain and to try and take away that the discomfort that was there, and hopefully would heal a little bit quicker with the anti-inflammatory, because obviously if you get rid of the inflammation, you have a chance of rehabbing it and doing exercises on it to strengthen up the area again. And once then in 2009, for the second time was in 2009 when I damaged my sternum. It was around this time, in the back-to-back games in Europe, we played Perpignan on a Friday night, and I got an elbow straight into the sternum here, which is a very sore thing, and anybody's had a rib injury, it's the same. It can last for weeks, that kind of discomfort and pain. And we played in Perpignan 8 days later, and I wanted to play that game. I had a big pad on my chest all week in training, trying to get through the training, and it was quite sore. So I'd taken anti-inflammatories after the game to try and reduce the swelling and stuff like that. And then the following Friday or Saturday, I think it was a Saturday game. On the Friday night, I got an injection from the doctor as a pain relief. Now, I understood that I wasn't going to do any damage to my chest or my ribs, that everything was stable, and there was no risk of further complicating it. I suppose bruising on bruising is sore, if you know what I mean. So it was a case to try and get through the game, and I played 60 minutes in that game. And probably when that painkiller or anti-inflammatory kind of wore off, I was tender again, but I was able to play the week after then. And
are they the sort of things that you need an exemption for?
We had to write the exemption on a Friday night. You can only take it within the 24, if you're taking it within the 24-hour period, that you have to. And so it was through the doc, we filled out the form, and it was sent away and faxed to the relevant authority to say that, look, there's a cortisone and anti-inflammatory injection being administered here. And I would have a problem with the certain sense of, if someone was taking injections regularly to try and get through games, well, that's nonsensical.
So
stupidity.
So the difference there then is, right, the thing that Brian is talking about is general pain management. So it's, and he spoke about a lot of the older players. So I've come to a certain point in my career where any sort of physical contact over the course of a game or training is having this impact on me that's obviously making it difficult to get through the rest of my week, as opposed to, and not excluding, but as opposed to when you pick up an actual specific injury that you need to try and recover from. So, and I think that's for me, been the main interesting point of this conversation, that it's that pain management. And so you had said that you had at some point, you would have taken some anti-inflammatory.
I would have taken
and maybe for training as well. Was that? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, on occasions you'd go in on a Tuesday and you have a contact session, or you have a stiffness from the weekend of the match, and I don't think any rugby player, in particular in rugby, would go in any week that wouldn't be sore. So maybe rugby players take them a little bit more regularly. But I sometimes when I hear players talking about it, or ex-players saying that they're popping pills left, right, and centre, it's a bit misconstrued, because we're adults. We got to make these decisions ourselves as well. And I listened to Dr. O'Driscoll the other night in the interview, saying that there is a responsibility on the players. Like, nobody's holding you down and administrating injections. And I think it's a bit insulting to doctors to suggest that maybe that they're pushing. I don't think Brian meant that they're pushing tablets on people. I think a lot of guys. I never really took caffeine at all, so I wasn't a caffeine taker.
By the way, I don't think he was saying that at all. He wasn't.
My
sense was that I'm an adult. I'm going to make the decision.
But I think some of the headlines in the papers were a little bit taken out of context. I think he was saying that, and I understand exactly where you get a bit of comfort from, because I guarantee you no rugby player will say they go any week without feeling some sort of tightness, soreness, a bit of bruising somewhere. It's just the nature of it. That's how you try and manage. And the recovery process nowadays is so much better, where straight after a game, the doctors and the physios are going around literally chatting to every single player, any knocks, any bangs, any potential bruising, and you're in the ice baths, and sometimes there's no alcohol after the games, and it's recovery drink, and it's to eat the right food. Then you're in on Sunday morning, you're getting massage, physio, even doing a light bike session to flush out the system. All that kind of stuff is done much better nowadays. So I wouldn't say there's the same kind of need for, maybe it's managed much better now. And I had Dr. Mick Malloy on this morning on breakfast, and you know, I asked him the long-term effects, because I was thinking, God, is there long-term effects? And he didn't think there was long-term effects if you're taking tablets. I think he's, you know, obviously there's still some risk if you're numbing pain, or if you're enabling yourself to play with an injury. There's a difference between playing with an injury and playing with pain or a bit of stiffness or soreness. Now, don't get me wrong, if there's a big final coming up at the weekend, the Champions Cup final, and Johnny Sexton has a niggle in his shoulder, you know, will he take some pain relief for that to get through the game? Will he maybe get himself strapped up? And that's the player taking a risk himself, and he will do it, and I'll do it as well.
Yeah. And like, I suppose, look, clearly I'm no doctor, but obviously the anecdotal evidence is out there that taking stuff like the strong anti-inflammatory or strong medication in a way that you shouldn't be, for example, on an empty stomach, obviously over a prolonged period of time, can have detrimental impacts on you. And that's the type of information, I suppose, or knowledge that at least at some point or another players are making informed decisions, you know, whether it's...
Yeah, and I think, look, that's why I say it's unfair to blame, because ethically I don't think any doctor, I've never seen a doctor pushing painkillers and going around looking for candidates to take them.
Again, I don't think that was the insinuation.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Actually, you're right, but I don't think that happens. And just to make clear that it doesn't happen, and I've never seen it happen. I think that getting into the habit of taking something that's going to alleviate some pain or kind of discomfort is something that has happened for sure. And me personally, I try to avoid that scenario. And obviously, if I was feeling good in myself, I didn't feel a need to take painkillers. But there were certain weeks where I did, and I had to take anti-inflammatories. And most of the time, I had bloody knocks. When I got my knee done, I'm trying to take anti-inflammatories to reduce the swelling, so I can go in and do an operation, or my shoulder, or if any sort of soft tissue injuries, you would try and, naturally diphene or whatever reduces that inflammation. So, but it is a good conversation to have, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line? I think the responsibility is on the doctor and the player to understand what's going on, and maybe if there was a culture of it, of people being in the habit of it, that culture has changed now. I don't know, because I'm not in the dressing room anymore. It's a good few years since I was there, but people, maybe some players relied on them a bit. I didn't really notice it because I wasn't someone who was continuously looking to take anti-inflammatories. I took them when I needed them, and that it could have been on a regular basis. It could have been for a couple of weeks. It mightn't have been for another couple of weeks, and it was something I understood the reason for it and what I was taking.
Where do you stand on where liberal painkiller use lies on the spectrum of performance enhancement? That's just a final question.
That's a good question. It's a complicated one. Where do I stand on...
Is it performance enhancing?
No, I don't think it's performance enhancing. It's performance enabling. And
is that the same thing, though?
No, it's not. Performance enhancing drugs are something that you're doing illegal, you're cheating, you're boosting your performance, you're making yourself you're giving yourself way more energy, you're giving yourself an unfair advantage. I think when you're injured, there's a level here that we'll say, call it that line, that the fit and healthy player in any sport will be. When you get injured, you drop down a level. So if your hamstring is tight, you're not going to be able to run as fast as normal, or if you have a shoulder injury, you're not going to be able to tackle as much. If you can reduce some inflammation, it's bringing you back up to enable you to perform at peak fitness. Where I think performance enhancing drugs, illegal steroids and illegal drugs bring you up to here. So it brings you way above the level playing field. So that's my opinion on it. Now, I still believe it's a good conversation to have. Yeah. My young lad is playing sport. All our kids are going to play sport. Do we want him to get into the habit of under 12s taking pain relief?
I think, and that's
for me, Adrian, as long as it's done right, and that the moral ethics are right, And again, it's something that's hard to regulate. Like, what do you do? World Rugby, you can't take Difene anymore. Put painkillers on a banned list. It's a very complex way of handling it. I think just the responsibility of the player and the doctor is really important. But it's a good transparent. I think it's a good conversation, and it's probably a good message to send out to the next generation of sports people coming through that, look, just be careful that you don't risk further damage to yourself. I don't think there's any cheating going on, but there may be some potential of further injury.
Yeah. All right, Quinny, you're going to come back to us 10, 15 minutes time. We're going to get stuck into the weekend's rugby, so thanks for the minute.
Yeah,
we'll be back to you
perfect.
in a little bit.
Thanks, cheers.
Another man who's had plenty of experience of playing through the pain barrier and indeed for his country as well was Stephen Reid. He joined the Keith Andrews show yesterday. Here's his take.
You're that desperate to just play that he'll do anything, really, won't you?
Mm.
It's scary, really. It's probably scary that I played against Arsenal for an hour when I was at West Brom with a broken leg. You know, I had a fracture in my fibula. I had a clash with my heel, our own keeper. So it was just a little bit lower than the knee. So instantly I'm thinking, I've done something to my knee, felt really sore. What probably didn't happen is that we went out on our Christmas do for 2 days in London with the team after. That probably didn't help matters. But I played for an hour with a fracture in my leg. So after that, I actually thought, you know what? It's actually scary.
Yeah.
That you're putting your body through some of these things that's like now I'm not playing. You know, I might be in pain for whatever reason it might be, but because you're that used to playing through pain, playing through swelling, doing what you can to get fit, actually, if there is something going on, you might, you know, in a way think to yourself, just get on with it. I'm used to dealing with pain and just getting through it. So after that, I thought, you know what, it's a little bit scary what you put your body through at times.
That full show available as always up on offtheball.com and on our social channels as well. Almost 8:25 on this Friday morning. We are delighted to have you along with us, and there's plenty of comments coming in about the topic we've just been discussing. We'll come back to that in a little bit and to those comments as well, but keep your thoughts, opinions and questions coming in as well all through the morning. Now, the breakfast menu for you this morning, an exciting behind the scenes tell-all documentary, not quite, about Tiger Woods has just been announced, and Eoin's going to give us full details on that in just a minute. It's an ESPN doc. Mauricio Pochettino is on his way to Manchester United, writes Neil Ashton this morning. Hippie crack at Arsenal. More on that in just a couple of minutes' time. Sean Dyche says that Daniel Sturridge is a cheat, and Danny Rose has had enough of playing at Wembley. So that is the breakfast menu this morning, and to kick it off, Eoin, Tiger has made a tell-all, behind the scenes, never before seen footage documentary that is going to give people, I think, from the detail that I've consumed on it, a real insight into Tiger Woods in a way that we've really never ever seen before.
Well, people are saying there's 18 days until Christmas. Well, let me tell you this, there is 23 days till Christmas, because on December the 30th we're getting a brand new Tiger Woods documentary about the year 2018. ESPN are producing it, and as Golf Digest writes, at times Tiger Woods' 2018 was so unbelievable you would have thought it came from a screenplay. While his story was very much real, it's now getting the silver screen treatment. The ESPN announced on Wednesday that it's producing a film on Woods' historic comeback season set to air on December 30th, which is, of course, Tiger Woods' birthday. So with
Obviously.
Whereas, as ESPN say, with new never-before-seen content, including multiple interviews with Woods, viewers will get behind-the-scenes access to PGA Tour events central to Woods' return, including the Valspar Championship.
Oh, the Valspar.
And the Tour Championship, no less, featuring stylised off-speed cameras and inside-the-rope viewpoints, the ESPN press release said. The film will also touch upon Woods' growing role as a leader and mentor on the PGA Tour, highlighting his role as captain's assistant at the 2017 President's Cup and the announcement made in March that he will captain the US team at the 2019 President's Cup in Australia. Now, the question is, who else from 2018 deserves a documentary? Is Tiger Woods the most deserving of a documentary made by ESPN in 2018? Let's pretend that ESPN cared about Irish sport for a moment and things that we care about as well. Like, who else deserves it? Like, I'm surprised that this is the only documentary we've seen that has been made with such a knee-jerk movement. As in, it's like, oh God, this would be a pretty good, lucrative story right here. And it's only a section of a very lucrative story.
They didn't plan it out, obviously. They've got behind the ropes footage, so, that's behind the ropes interviews. Behind the ropes something. I mean, I'm not even quite sure what behind the ropes means, but...
It's just Ken on the course,
Inside the ropes. Inside the ropes?
Inside the ropes.
Yeah. Ken on the course for 2 hours. I mean, that's no, I could get behind that. That makes sense to me.
It's just going to be him reading Tiger Woods' poetry, looking at balls moving in different directions on the green. That's what the whole documentary is going to be. If there was if you say Behind the Ropes, a Tyson Fury 2018 documentary, there was a fly in the wall version of that. That would be something that...
Now, I did say Behind the Ropes, and obviously the expression is inside the ropes. But
yeah, you did kind of mess that up.
I'm not as up at the boxing parlance as you would be on.
No, well, obviously, who is?
Tony McGregor, for one.
Don't mention that name around here.
Where are we going next? The Hippie Crack? Pochettino to Manchester United. Exclusive by Neil Ashton here. I mean, it does seem to have some sort of meat on the bones, chicken on the bone, to use the golf expression. United line up mega raid for Spurs boss, 40 million quid to make Mauricio Pochettino. This has been rumoured in terms of being an exclusive, it has been rumoured for quite some time.
Well, it's been based on fact for quite some time.
Yeah.
Himself and Alex Ferguson met for lunch, famously, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And at that point...
Well, we all know that Fergie doesn't meet anybody for lunch who isn't a potential future Manchester United manager.
Well, obviously.
He's just, you know...
That's it. That's his thing. So I think it was summer 2016 when he tried to persuade him. Like, the question here is obviously... managing Manchester United will be far bigger for the profile of Mauricio Pochettino than managing Tottenham Hotspur. And let's not forget that Jose Mourinho is coming off a historic treble last season. He's probably not going to win a trophy this year, but he won a treble last year. So all signs would suggest that Mauricio Pochettino has a better chance of eradicating the black mark against him with Manchester United. That black mark being that he still hasn't won a trophy in English football. The question is, though, will Manchester United really provide a better opportunity for him to win a trophy in English football?
Well, probably yes, primarily because he can spend what he likes.
Yeah.
So I would say on that basis, I understand your point that maybe you're asking, are Manchester United a better team currently than
Well, they're
Tottenham?
obviously not currently, but he could probably make them a better team than Spurs.
Well, he'd also end
are.
up bringing a bunch of those players with him, presumably.
You would think so, but if you see this, I've got a sense that this is really that the United hierarchy are legitimately thinking about this. Neil Ashton has good sources.
Yeah, now, in terms of sorry to interrupt, Manchester United prepared to fork out up to 40 million to make Pochettino the next boss. The Old Trafford hierarchy have decided that the Tottenham boss is the only man, in capital bold, to replace Jose Mourinho next summer. There's no plan B, is what they're saying here. They're all in.
Yeah, and I think they've got a hell of a chance of getting him, and I think they need to make this move pretty soon, and they need to give concrete information to a number of players, namely Paul Pogba, that there will be a new manager coming in next summer.
Yeah.
Now, when do you make this move? Like, the possibility is, now Jerry's been saying this all week, that Jose should sell Paul Pogba and Lukaku in January.
Oh yeah, if I'm Jose, why would you not?
Why would you not? The problem is, Jose doesn't have the final call on a lot of those decisions.
Well, I suppose he'd get a good indication about his future if he wanders on into the hierarchy and says, "Hey lads, thinking about selling Pogba there. What are you thinking? Tell you what, Jose, we'll have a think about that for a while. We'll come back to you."
Do you not think he would have got the same indication at the end of August when he said, "Hey, I want to sign Toby Alderweireld there. I want to sign Diego Godin there. I want to sign Rafael Varane there."
Yeah.
And they say, actually, no. Do you not think he would have got that sense? And do you not think
possibly not, because God knows how many players they go through in terms of... It's a slightly different dynamic where you're trying to attract a player versus I want to flog a player, where, you know, that's a player we don't have versus, you know, I want to get rid of one of our stars, one of the most highly rated players on the planet.
Page 10 and 11 in The Sun is the big news this morning. We're going to get wasted.
It's an exclusive.
It's an exclusive. We're going to get wasted, it says. Stars antics days before City defeat. It is a 2-page spread. It is covered and shrouded in black and white like CCTV. Arsenal aces inhale hippie crack balloons. Wild Bash has 70 girls and €2,000 vodka. Somebody was tweeting me this morning that €2,000 of vodka is a pathetic amount that he drank more in his own stag, which is a pretty fair summation. So we've got Lacazette, Mkhitaryan, Guendouzi, Mustafi, Aubameyang, Kolasinac and Ozil named at the top, like 7 criminals. We'll show you a couple of the screenshots from the Sun's website about the CCTV footage. So here is a couple of the lads. We've got Kolasinac in the corner there. We've got Ozil sitting beside him, and they're about to inhale some hippie crack. We can see Henrik Mkhitaryan at the bottom right. He abstains from hippie crack
on
this particular occasion. We don't know for sure if he's a hippie crack abstainer in general. Or
Hippie crack, by the way, can we explain to people what hippie crack is? Because it doesn't really do what it says in the tin.
So there's a nice little tab here by Carol Cooper, the Irish Sun doctor, saying the use of nitrous oxide as a street drug seems wider than ever. It's often called laughing gas, but its dangers are no joke. The risks are greatest when it's inhaled from a plastic bag, when it's combined with alcohol, and when others egg the users on. So peer pressure is bad, Adrian. Along with the rush of euphoria, the gas causes dizziness and hallucinations. Afterwards, there's often headaches or intense tiredness. A large dose of nitrous oxide starves the body and brain of oxygen, which is why it can cause death or put the taker in a coma. So the message here is stick to the alcohol, because alcohol kills nobody. Let's have a look at the second image here from that night, and we can see somebody approaching Mesut Ozil and Sead Kolasinac, that person I believe to be Aubameyang, and then we can see on the left hand side Shkodran Mustafi, who is an expert on hippie crack, which we'll come back to in just a moment. You can roll the footage on a little bit moment, and we've changed camera and we can see the subtitle. Aubameyang, who's supporting a fedora hat, can be seen trying a balloon, causing laughter among the group. And we've moved on a little bit further. We can see at the bottom left, Matteo Guendouzi passed out. So there was an image just before that that shows Mustafi instructing Matteo.
Top right, actually. I mean, I don't know.
Top right, yeah, top right.
How many balloons you've had this morning?
Quite a few. Mustafi has been instructing Matteo Guendouzi on how to utilise the hippie crack balloon, and he does so very successfully there. As you can see, the poor 19-year-old has passed out. This all happened in August. So the moral of the story is, it happened before the season started, so they lost 2 games, but they subsequently went on a 20-game unbeaten run. So hippie crack, good for form, is the moral of the story.
This stuff is perfectly legal. It's is it some description of laughing gas? Is that the
it's laughing gas. Like regular users suffer pain, numbness, and coordination issues that stay long term. And then Carol Cooper says, I can't imagine any serious athlete putting his life or career at risk like this once they know the danger. Not only is one athlete doing this, 7 athletes are doing laughing gas. Absolutely sickening stuff from Arsenal. Despicable.
Right, what's next up on the breakfast menu? We've got Sean Dyche up against Daniel Sturridge. This is widely reported. This is one I've just grabbed here in my hand from the Irish Daily Mirror. It's Sturridge is a cheat, says Sean Dyche. This is arising from the Burnley-Liverpool game at the weekend, during the week. It was challenged by Phil Bardsley. It was a pretty tasty game by all accounts anyway, and there was plenty of challenges flying in left, right and centre, but this one specifically is about challenge by Phil Bardsley and Daniel Sturridge, where Bardsley sort of half goes in and then sort of maybe at some point realises that actually I need to withdraw a little bit from this, so it's not quite full bore into it. And then I know, Sturridge definitely dived, right? Like, he definitely sort of removes it, and you can see him there in full flight, arms in the air and all of that good stuff. But, I mean, you could be generous to Daniel Sturridge and say that he was expecting some sort of a serious injury contact and removed himself from the situation, which is a possibility that I'm not ruling out.
No. I'm also quite enjoying the fact that Daniel Sturridge versus Sean Dyche is happening. This is not a piece I expected to see. Neil Tracy rightly pointed out this morning that we're not quite sure if it is Sean Dyche who made these comments, because it could well be James Chisholm, the Premiership rugby player. So in case BT Sport viewers were wondering about the Chisholm-Dyche comparison that gave Ugo Monye a fit of the giggles, there they are. He looks kind of like a regen version of Sean Dyche. And then Chisholm himself, after the game, tweeting, disappointing loss today. Congratulations, Crystal Palace. Would like to thank the travelling Burnley fans for the support. You were fantastic. Roll on next week. And the only other thing we wanted to get to in the breakfast menu really is Danny Rose saying that playing at Wembley has lost its magic, which, to be fair, if 30,000 people are showing up to watch you play at Wembley, the magic is pretty much gone.
The only thing is that he's not playing at Wembley that much, so, you know, he's played 3 times this season, so the idea that he
sizzling
gets...
burn from Adrian Barry this morning.
The idea that he gets somewhat fatigued by playing at Wembley after 3 games is more of a reflection of Danny Rose than it has anything to do with the, to be fair, shithouse situation that is going on at the club.
It's true, but like you're saying that he's not going to get many White Hart Lane moments when they move into the brand new spanking stadium.
That's what I'm saying. That's your breakfast menu for this morning. Plenty of comments coming in. We're going to get those to you in a little bit. Alan Quinlan as well will be back in studio with us in just a little bit to look ahead to the weekend's rugby, and we've got our world exclusive, of course, coming your way as well after 9 o'clock. That's going to be the mini doc. Owen's looking at me to say, what's the world exclusive? The mini doc on the Vancouver Whitecaps in the company of Enda Call and Eoin as well, so that's coming your way in a little bit, and we'll bring you some of those comments too. So it's 25 to 9 on this Friday morning. The Irish boxer Seán Mannion's journey, you might have heard about this one, from Connemara teenager to South Boston hero, is a pretty remarkable story. Back in 2017, Rocky Ross Muck, which is a brilliant documentary on his story, was released. Journalist Ronan McNamara has teamed up with Seán to bring you the book now as well to accompany it. It's called The Man Who Was Never Backed Down.
Was never knocked down.
And the lads joined on in the studio for a chat about Seán's life.
I went in, myself and Danny went in sparring, and we were sparring with each other for so long. We knew exactly what the other guy was going to do, so we had to stop. So that was a good gym, and that's, I don't know, when I went over to Boston then the second time, College Gym was closed, and they had moved up beneath the courthouse in South Boston, and there was in the daytime the gangsters were up at the courthouse, and in the evening they'd be downstairs training, and I got to know about them, and they were pretty good fighters there as well. Like, it reminded me of the Russmuck Boxing Club. Like, you know, just a bunch of guys from South Boston there, and it was very hard to beat them. Like, you know.
Was it immediately evident that the Irish Mafia would be quite a prominent part of Connolly's gym? Was it something you immediately realised?
No, I didn't know anything about the Irish Mafia at the time, you know, and even years later I didn't even know anything about it. But I remember one time, 1980 or 81, when Connolly he opened another gym in Andrew Square, and this guy came up to me and he said, "I want to talk to you." I said, "Go ahead." We were talking, and first of all, the guy was born in Russmuck, and he was like 7 years old when he went to America, and he was one of the guys that Whitey Bulger was afraid of. And when I came into the gym, he came in. He said, "I want to talk to you. There's this guy going to call you from Leavenworth Prison, and he wants an interview with you." Okay, no problem. So next thing we sat down talking about home, like, you know, because he's from Russmuck, I'm from Russmuck, and we were talking. And he left anyways, and he said, next thing the crowd comes around me. "What did that guy want? Who do you know who he is?" I said, "I don't talk to strangers." I said, "Of course I know who he is. He's a guy from Russmuck." "Oh no, he's from South Boston." I said, "No, you got your facts wrong." I said, you know. So they were scared. They were scared of them. And then Connolly came over to me and asked me, what did he want? I told him to make sure that nobody messes with me.
Right.
And "Are you all right? Do you want me to get you anything?" "Yeah, go and get me a six-pack." I said, you know. And he said, the guy's name was Pat Nee.
Pat Nee.
Yeah, who was born in Russmuck, and I'm sure we're related one way or the other. Like,
he's still alive today?
He's still alive, yeah. I talk to him all the time, yeah. He's in South Boston, yeah.
So I can't imagine being in that situation, but I would suspect that there's something empowering about that, you know, if there's somebody like that who's looking after you, who is kind of not threatening other people in the gym, but warning them that if you mess with my friend Seán here, something might happen to you. Did that empower you a little bit? Did you feel a little bit safer?
Because I really didn't know at the time what was going on, because I was so interested in boxing that all I cared about was boxing. And when he came in, I said, like a lot of people used to come into the gym from home. Almost every night, a couple of people from home used to come down to the gym, watch me train and help me out sometimes, like, you know. Mm-hmm. But I thought he was just one of them. But I kind of knew a little bit about him, but then I found out more about him, and we became really good friends, and to this day we're still friends.
What was your sense of the Boston mob, well, not the mob, the Irish Mafia in Boston, and their view of Seán and one of their own people from the likes of Russmuck?
It's interesting, like Boston and Russmuck, you know, it's an interesting concept almost, in that it's so interwoven, you know, like every facet of Boston has some sort of Russmuck connection, you know, be it sport, be it crime, be it the mayor's mother's from Russmuck. You have, you know, the likes of Pat Nee, born in Russmuck, Whitey Bulger's one-time attempted assassin and then right-hand man. But the the sense, it's the sense of it, I suppose, in the context of Seán would be like when I was working on the book, would never, or the documentary, that it would never matter who we called or who I contacted. Once I had told them that, that we're looking to do something about Seán, it was like, oh yeah, whatever, yeah, definitely we'll do it. So be it, Mickey Ward, former world champion, be it Pat Nee, be it Marty Walsh, the mayor, whoever it was, once you gave them a call in Boston and you said that you were doing something about Seán Mannion, like instantly it opened the door. It says, anything for Seán was the reaction.
Why do you think that was?
Do you know what? I think it's a reflection of, I'm not embarrassed, Seán sitting beside me here, but I think it's a reflection of Seán's own principles and values, and I think this is in the book, that I would say that Seán's principles and values, I would say, have, held him back in terms of his boxing career.
Probably be a world champion at modesty if they did one.
I don't know about that.
See, he wouldn't even admit to that. That's how modesty is.
Talk to us about that fight, the McCallum fight. What's your memories of that night? Is it one that brings you any happiness at all? Because, as Ronan has said, it's an incredible achievement to get to that point. Maybe, who knows what would have happened with different management. Maybe there would have been more opportunities, but still, it was the Garden. It was a world title fight in one of the glory days of boxing. Surely that brings you some sort of fondness looking back on it.
Well, I had a training camp up at the Catskill Mountains in New York, and I was there for 7 weeks and training real hard, sparring, and the third day into the sparring, I was sparring with the guy, Hector Germain, and next thing he threw a left hook and caught me and cut my eye, and I went, myself and my brother and Connolly went down to New York City, and we got a doctor. I don't know where he came from, but he put 9 stitches in my eye without any Novocaine at all, so it would heal better. And that was the end of the sparring. And my brother Paddy and Peter Kerr, who was with me, wanted to postpone the fight, but Connolly wouldn't hear about it. And I went along with Connolly. I thought I'll never get a chance again. So I went into the fight with McCallum without any sparring except maybe 2 or 3 days. And I remember when we were 20 years after the fight, myself and McCallum were over in Birmingham in England. And he said, I knew about your eye, he said. How much sparring did you lose? I said, it'd be easier for me to tell you how much sparring I had. I had 3 days of sparring. Oh my God, he said. He said, thank God you did, he said, because my life would be different now, he said. I don't know what he meant by that or nothing like that, so...
Probably guess what he means, that you had a far better chance of winning that fight.
Yeah, but I don't know, he was good though.
That's incredible. 3 days of sparring before a world title fight.
And my eye got cut, and that was it. I got 9 stitches in my eye. And then during the fight, I was afraid my eye would open, and I was trying to keep it covered. I'd keep it, but I was making it worse. Thank God it didn't open up again. So
you say after the fight, you say in the book, you said in the documentary, you've been on the show previously, that you felt you let down Ireland after that fight. It's a pretty harsh view of that afterward. I mean, I say there a moment ago, you must have felt some fondness about that. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, has your view changed over time, that you feel like you haven't let down a whole country?
I still feel like I let down Ireland because they didn't have a world champion, I think it was for 1949 or something,
He says you had as strong a chin as Muhammad Ali, Dundee said.
Yeah, he was saying that.
Do you believe him?
I don't know. Poor guy now, he died, but I don't know, 8 years ago or 9 years ago. But he was a real gentleman, he was the same as Mike Flaherty was, You do your training and you train hard, but you'd enjoy doing it, you'd have fun with him doing it,
Was that his biggest strength as a coach, Dundee's? The ability to make their fighter enjoy their life? Yeah,
I think so. I think that was it. He never tried to change me as a fighter. He just tried to add on to what I had. Did
you ever get the chance to speak to Ali?
I spoke to Ali on the phone. I never met him, and I really and truly wanted to meet him because he was my favourite, like, you know. But I spoke to him on the phone, and I remember I was out in California, I was fighting, and myself and John McDonough, John Tom Jack, we were in the hotel room, and Angelo came in and he said, "Oh, you're reading old magazines, oh, Mohammed. When was the last time," he said, "you spoke to Mohammed?" I said, "I never spoke to him." "Oh, we'll call him then." So he called him from his hotel room. Like he had gone to the Kentucky Derby, where he was from Kentucky, but he was talking to his mother, and an hour later the phone rang. It was Muhammad Ali calling back the room.
What did he say?
"Oh, how you doing?" He said, my people were Irish too, and I thought that I didn't know at the time that his great grandfather came from County Clare, but he Abe Grady was his name. But I thought he was just like when he fought in Dublin in 1972, he was saying he was Irish descent, and I thought everybody thought he was just promoting the fight. But his great-grandfather came from County Clare. So I spoke to him for about 5-10 minutes, but I'm sorry I never got a chance to meet him. Like,
yeah, I can imagine. Just one final question then on your fighting career. It's strange to kind of pin down what exactly your dominant emotion is when you reflect on your fighting career. Do you reflect on it happily, or do you reflect on it with a bit of melancholy?
I'm kind of happy about it, like, you know. I mean, when I went professional, like, I went over to America, especially to go professional, to box professional, and I thought I said I'll have a year or two, maybe have 4 or 5 fights and see how far I could go, like, you know. But one thing led to another, and in the end I was almost 16 years boxing professional.
It's not a bad innings.
It's not the worst, I guess.
I think not the worst is probably the best you can, the closest you can come to saying your career is excellent. It's a brilliant story. It's a fantastic book. Congratulations. And I think it's congratulations for another reason, Ronan, as well. I think we're allowed to say that the film rights have been purchased.
Yeah, so do you know what, it's funny, sometimes, you know, the greatest stories are on your own doorstep and you don't see it, you know, and almost literally in my case, like Sean's stories on doorstep. And, you know, we got together and we wrote, and like, again, I suppose it's a reflection of Sean and his principles, in that, you know, when we spoke first about writing a book, he said, yes, but it has to be written in Irish first.
Right.
So we wrote a book in Irish, and out of that then Rocky Rasmuck, the documentary, the film documentary came, and that's won a number of awards, and, you know, like, you know,
shortlisted for an Oscar, was it?
It was, yeah. Well, long-listed, but we'll say shortlisted for the purposes of this, right? And then we have the Man Who Was Never Knocked Down, the book coming out of it, and now the option for that has been purchased by an LA production company. So, you know, we'll see, they're in development on that at the moment in terms of scripting and that sort of stuff. But, like, if nothing else out of all of this, that like, finally, you know, that Sean gets the recognition in Ireland that he deserves.
Yeah, it's a class story. That was Ronan McAnamara, who's written the book alongside Seán Mannion there, the boxer who's never knocked down, and Eoin in conversation with the lads there during the week. Phil Egan has joined us in studio this morning. Good morning to you, Phil.
Morning, lads.
You're always on the also on the red jumper buzz.
It's a memo. We send it around every week.
I just didn't get it. That's fine.
Yeah, it's like Christmas.
You're not in our memo circle.
That's all right. I'm okay with that. There's like WhatsApp groups now. You don't have to have a memo circle anymore. It's like technology is...
Yeah, we're a bit of a cult.
Alan Quinlan's on the way, and so he's going to be with us in a few minutes' time to look ahead to the weekend's rugby. But Phil is going to bring us up to speed with everything that's happening in live sport. Hockey to kick us off, Phil.
Yeah, big game for the Irish men's team. Final pool game at the World Cup in India, and Alexander Cox's side know exactly what to do. They play England at 1:30 Irish time. A draw or a win, obviously we'd like a win, would be enough to secure a place in the knockout stages, the crossover phase as it's called, and if they were to win, they're likely to play either New Zealand or France. So both sides have lost to Australia. We lost 2-1, they lost 3-0. Both have drawn with China. We drew 1-1, they drew 2-2. So with those results, that means obviously we're better than them.
And, China are kind of the surprise package of this group, and they've upset everything, but obviously the opportunity to just grind out a draw today.
Yeah, so like as I said, if Ireland win or draw, they go through. England know if they win, they go through at our expense. So it's 1:30.
Very good. What else have you got for us?
You mentioned the rugby. Obviously, Ulster are the first of the Irish provinces in Heineken Champions Cup action this weekend. The 1999 winners are away to the Scarlets this evening. Scarlets reached the semi-finals last season, but they've lost both pool games in this campaign. Rory Best, Ian Henderson, Will Addison and Jacob Stockdale all in the Ulster starting 15 as Ulster look for a second win in Pool 4. They beat Leicester, but they lost to Racing. That one's a 7:45 kickoff. Leinster, Munster and Connacht will all name their teams today at lunchtime. Leinster are away to Bath tomorrow afternoon. The English side could have the inside track on the defending champions because Gervin Dempsey is an attack coach with Bath now. So Leinster head coach Leo Cullen admits they had to change a few things in preparation for this game.
Gervin, who we know well, who's gone in there and knows us well, which is always a bit of a. It's always something for us to consider. There's danger in that. We discussed it even way back in pre-season in terms of altering some of our calls, etc., etc. So for when this day comes, that we're having to change a whole lot of different things on any given week.
Yeah, Munster in action on Sunday. The two-time champions welcome French champions Castle at Thomond Park. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff. Munster have a win and a draw in Pool 2. Connacht will name their team to face Perpignan in the Challenge Cup. Later on today. That game is tomorrow. The fallout from Liverpool's win over Burnley on Wednesday night continues on this morning's back pages. I know it's something you lads have discussed. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp unhappy with Burnley's tackles on Wednesday night. Joe Gomez suffered a fractured leg which will keep him out for 6 weeks when he was challenged by Ben Mee. Speaking yesterday at his pre-match press conference, Burnley manager Sean Dyche didn't see anything wrong with that tackle or with their approach to the game.
There were some excellent tackles last night. I think Ben Mees was a fantastic tackle. I imagine, I don't know this, but a player, what seems to me, an honest player like Gomez, I think he realised that. We send him our best if there is any injury occurred, but it's not from a bad tackle.
Yeah, and he also did admit that Phil Bardsley's tackle on Alberto Moreno wasn't the best. So Sean Dyche in the past has always come out and said if his team has done something wrong, he's no problem admitting it. And he always is quite logical. I don't really know.
Sturridge is a cheat was his line that's getting a lot of the back pages.
Yeah,
today.
he said he dived
Did take a bit of a dive, but I mean, it might have been.
Yeah, it was quite a physical game. I watched it and I thought, okay, but this is that's what you expect. Burnley are hardly going to outplay. So
you're a typical anti-Liverpool bias anyway.
Oh yeah. Just finish up with the boxing. Obviously, big night in Castlebar. 2,000 fans expected at the Royal Theatre. Mainly there to see Mayo lightweight Ray Moylett, nicknamed Sugar Ray Moylett, takes on Mexico's Christian Urrasqueta, and that is it's on TG Carr from 8:30. Gary Spike O'Sullivan also on that card, and Seán Mannion is going to be part of the commentary team. Ryan Burnett, Jason Quigley, Ken Egan, Darren O'Neill, all in the commentary box. Not sure how many Gael goers are there, but we'll find out at 8:30.
Not many, I don't think. I haven't seen coverage of boxing on TG Carr previously, including some of those names, so we shall see how that goes. And Premier League Live tomorrow, of course, on Today FM, tomorrow from 2 o'clock.
No, we've got 12:15 on todayfm.com. We've got Bournemouth, Liverpool. Liverpool can go top, and then Manchester United and Fulham. Fulham can get off the bottom if they win.
Very good. Good man. Thanks a million, Phil. Thanks for that update. We're going to have Alan Quinlan in the studio next to discuss all things rugby for this weekend. But before that, another clip from the Keith Andrews show. This time, Keith on the state of Manchester United at the minute.
And then, just look at that back five, like wing backs. Darmin, Dalot, who we've hardly seen anything of, and he may well prove to be a really good player. Defensively, they're always going to give you a chance. Thought Boye actually did okay last night, and they added a bit more pace to their back line with the introduction of him. Rojo to a degree. But I just don't even know where to go with United anymore. I genuinely, and I promise you I'm not just saying this, I think you know that I would rather watch Bournemouth, Leicester, Palace on a good day. Well, Palace should have beat Man United going back Saturday week. Drew at Old Trafford 0-0. I would rather watch a lot of Premier League teams before Manchester United, and that's not even just the main big teams in the league. Because I don't know what you get game to game. The amount of changes he's made, they haven't actually got a style of play. They're not enjoyable to watch. Now, like or loathe Manchester United down through the years, look, people keep on going on about the Fergie year and a generation got spoiled, but he's been in charge that long now. He's had 5 transfer windows. He hasn't moulded that team into anything that gives you hope of what they can go and achieve, or that they can get back into the top 4 race. 8 points, I think it is at the moment, where they're behind. It's just dour. And every day you pick up the paper, you read an app, it's just, what press conference is he going to come out today? What line is he going to come out? But it's his general demeanour.
Yeah.
Like, he needs a new challenge. The club most certainly do. And I said this a couple of months ago before that Newcastle game, I just felt it was coming to the end. I'm surprised they got through that, and they dig in and they seem to get results from,
I'm surprised
somewhere.
you watched last night. It looks like the team are really playing for him. Like it did. I mean, they're all trying to press a bit. They're all having a go. Obviously, Pogba on the bench is not a sustainable situation one way or the other. Someone's going to have to go between the two of them, or he's going to have to play again, because you can't just leave a £90 million footballer on the bench.
I think some players are playing from Joe.
You're not sure about all of them?
Oh, no, certainly not.
It's Keith Andrews' show every Thursday at lunchtime, all across our social channels. Alan Quinlan is back in studio. Welcome back, honey. Your parking is up in 15 minutes, so we've got to get through this sort of...
You don't have to, we can continue the parking.
Right, okay. Grand, we spoke earlier on about the other conversation about painkillers that's dominated a lot of the back pages for the course of the week. So people can check that out if they wish, but we do want to look ahead to the weekend of rugby as well. Just to touch briefly on Ulster, obviously, who are in action at Scarlet's.
Sorry, I've just been told in my ear. How have you gone from matching with me to matching with Adrian in the last...
that's true, actually. That is a very good point.
Move it, move it around. Keep you all happy on.
Continuity's gone out the window.
How am I matching with you? That's
well, you're
great.
You're a bit closer, I suppose.
Right, okay.
You had to change your wardrobe, have you?
Yeah.
He's saying nothing.
I'll bring in a couple of outfits.
That's fair enough, yeah. Ulster at the Scarlets tonight, 7:45. Obviously, Ulster's record so far, they beat what turns out to be a suspect enough Leicester team, hammered by Racing, and are already in a massive scrap in Pool 4 ahead of this one.
Yeah, I think when you go away, particularly in Europe, you've got to try and pick something up on the road, and that, you could say that the first performance in Leicester was a bit scrappy at home to Leicester, but it was a good win. Going to Racing then, they started the game really well, got blown away then completely by Racing, which was demoralising. I look at the team, Adrian, and I think this looks like a strong Ulster team for probably the first time. And I know Damon McFarlane, he's had his injuries. They look strong, particularly if you look at 15, Ludick, Spate, Addison, McCluskey, Stockdale. That they're all strong, powerful, good players. And then Billy Burns is back from John Cooney. So they have a really good backline. But look, we go back to the same questions always with Ulster. It's up front. Eric O'Sullivan is playing at Loosehead. He's come up from the academy. Right. Very promising young player. Bess, Marty Moore is in. Henderson, the back row, Reedy, Murphy and Kutsia. Just when I looked at the team, it kind of jumped out.
Right, okay.
That's getting strong now. And, they've had their issues with a few players. They've scraped through a few games against Cardiff last week in the Pro 14. Weren't very convincing, So still a lot of questions there. They're away at the Scarlets. They need to get something on the road, to get out of the group. And it's an opportunity from tonight. I'm not sure they'll get it done.
Right.
James Davies is back for the Scarlets. Yeah, look,
they need to get it
I
done,
wouldn't say, look, it's not completely... You think then they'd have to get something in Leicester when they play Leicester away. Yeah. Win your home games. You're looking at four wins, maybe 3 with 3 losing bonus points has got teams in the last couple of seasons. But I just think for Ulster, getting out of the group is a really important part of getting them back on track, really, and that's a tough one from tonight.
Yeah. All right. Bath against Leinster is live on Off the Ball on Saturday evening. It's a 5:15 start. It's at the Rec. First, obviously, the back-to-back games, and it's been a number of weeks, obviously, since the last bit of action. So just to remind people that Leinster had that thumping 52-3 win over Wasps in round 1. They lost by a point. Somewhat surprisingly at the time to Toulouse in round 2. So off the back of that defeat in Europe from a Leinster point of view, a good few injuries as well. Is this a good time, as good a time as it gets to be playing Leinster from a Bath's perspective?
I'm not sure. I think the challenge for Leinster, the only challenge Leinster have nowadays is themselves, getting themselves right mentally. If you look at the strength and depth of their squad, and we speak about it a lot, and they proved that in the last couple of weeks with a second stroke third string side. where they walloped, put 50 points on Ospreys and at home, and then away last week to the Dragons. It's phenomenal what they did in the last couple of weeks. Maybe one or two first-team players in the group. Scott Fardy is probably one I can think of. James Lowe. They're the only ones that'll probably start tomorrow against Bath. It just goes to show all their internationals will come back. They got their wake-up call in Toulouse. They still should have won that game. Bit of mismanagement, poor kicking. Toulouse kind of got their tails up on a couple of occasions. And they got themselves in the game, and they kind of hung on in there. Leinster came back and took the lead in the second half, and you thought, well, they're going to get the results now. And Toulouse stole in the end with a fantastic try from Maynard. A little bit of a wake-up call for them, but I think that's probably only going to make them more focused going to Bath tomorrow.
But when you talk about them almost sort of themselves being their biggest thing, like that kick in the hole almost might be exactly the thing.
Yeah, so this group, the group that Leo Cullen will pick tomorrow won't have played in a few weeks together. A lot of them would have played for Ireland, but putting on that blue jersey again, they certainly won't. Like I said, the loss in Toulouse will focus the minds a little bit more. Bath have been poor. I think they've won 3 in the Premiership. I have it here.
Haven't won in the league since September.
Yeah, they've won 3 games. They drew at home to Sale last week. They're capable. They have some good players. I covered a game in Europe when they played Toulouse in round 1, and Freddie Burns was going over the line to win. That's the game he dropped the ball. At times they looked dangerous, but pretty inconsistent in the league. So I think a side like Leinster, just with the ability to retain the ball and the threats they have throughout the team and how physical and intense they are, I can't see Bath causing them much trouble there tomorrow, to be honest.
Just one area in the back row on that one that I wanted to ask you about was that obviously there's a couple of doubts as well as the long confirmed injury list that Leinster have. There's a couple of doubts about players as well, including Conan and Levy. So the makeup of the back line could potentially be Ruddock, Van der Fleur, and maybe Keelan Doris, who seems to have maybe moved.
Yeah, and he stepped up in the last couple of weeks, and a very exciting, promising player as well. So they're, somebody gets injured and they just keep producing them. So. I don't look whoever they play there. I think they've enough depth. They can play Fardy in the back row as well. They could play Ruddock 8. They could play Fardy, Ruddock and Van der Fleur in the back row if they wanted to. But Keelan Doris has played well for him. He's a really good player. So, like I say, even with a couple of injuries, they've so much strength and depth. And for any team to be able to do what they did in the last 2 weeks, Adrian, shows how good they are. Some of these players, they're not players we really know a lot about, but in the last couple of weeks, they been sensational.
And so, with all that long list of players, Henshaw, O'Brien, McFadden, McGrath, maybe to a lesser degree.
It's not ideal. I think Leo Cullen would love to have them all available, the top players, but they seem to be less affected with injuries than most other teams because they have that depth. I think the interesting thing about tomorrow will be Gervin Dempsey's impact with Bath.
Is that relevant, do you think?
It may help a little bit because he'll be trying to hammer home probably the standards and winning in Europe last year in the Pro 14 and so many international players who won a Grand Slam. It does help a little bit to say, look, this is how the best players in Europe do it. This is where we need to get to. And sometimes a cultural change. There's a lot of envy about the culture here in Ireland, the way players look after themselves in all the provinces, the fitness standards they have, the detail they put into it, right from the Joe Schmidt group right down through the provinces, and that has had a very good rippling effect throughout the provinces. So there is and some of the Irish guys, Rog spoke about that before in France, shifting that mentality into just having a massive work rate around your job all week.
What Bath, when they brought Gervin Dempsey in, they're thinking.
Well, maybe they can learn something about that, and so he'll know Leinster inside out. Obviously, he's a Leinster man through and through, and will that help him a little bit? I tell you, if I was Gervin Dempsey, I'd be saying, look, if you drop your guard here for 2 minutes, Leinster they sense that vulnerability in teams, and they can really punish them. And for Bath to have any chance tomorrow, they've got to live with that high intensity, and they'll have their moments in the game as well and take their opportunities. So I think he will have an effect on him. But ultimately, I don't think they'll be good enough to trouble Leinster.
Just on Gervin Dempsey, and I know this is a bit of a tangent, but it just makes me think the tag of being Irish now after our most successful year ever. I wonder, does that really help as a coach, just in terms of the respect of your players and things like
the
that?
new Kiwis, is that
that's it?
There's an intrigue, and when I played with Munster, there was intrigue by some of the French clubs as to how we did it, because they probably looked at the team and said, well, I'm as good as or better than some of these guys in the Munster team, and we've bigger budgets and we've some world superstars, and we can't beat them, or why can't we win in Europe? And it's just that consistency. So I think they can learn from it. And certainly teams will look at Leinster and their success winning 4 European Cups and say, well, there'll be an envy from coaches and players and clubs all over Europe to say, well, they're the kind of standard bearers. That's the standard. How do they do it? And there'll be an intrigue about how they do it. So Gervin would have been part of that group. So I'm sure Bath would be, that's his role there, is to try and help and improve the team that's there. A lot of the times we see in France and England incredibly talented squads, but they just don't seem to gel together and get the best out of themselves. And sometimes that's down to mentality and culture and how they conduct themselves.
It's interesting to see as well. One thing that I saw this week was that somebody high up in the Welsh Union was saying that they have 2 Irish, Aussie and a Kiwi coaches of the province, and obviously a Kiwi at the head coach role as well. And he was saying that actually we need to get a bunch of Welsh coaches in there. If you look at the spread of quality, on your point of Irish coaches that exist across the planet at the minute, between Rog and Paul O'Connell and Mike Prendergast and Jordan Murphy and Gervin Dempsey and Alan Clark, there's a long
Jackman, even though he's struggling with at the moment with the Dragons, which is always going to be tough.
Conor
O'Shea, Mark McCall, Jeremy Davidson is coaching in France. Dennis Fogarty's coaching in France.
Like when you look
Jonathan
at
Bell,
the spread
David
of
Humphreys,
coaches in Ireland, it's an Irish, a Kiwi, an Aussie, South African, and an Englishman, a Kiwi at the head role, which will be an Englishman next year. You just wonder at some point or another, all those names that we've mentioned, the profit in your own land sometimes is not always the most popular thing.
No, and it's harder sometimes because there is that scrutiny here when there's four jobs in the provinces, essentially head jobs. Felix Jones, Jerry Flannery, they're coaching in Munster. John Fogarty's in Leinster. Richie Murphy, with Ireland as well. The same with the other provinces. That there's a lot of talented young coaches. You'd love to see more of them, getting more prominent roles, and maybe some of them coming home. And I'm sure, that'll be on the radar for David Nucifora going forward. Particularly what guys are doing abroad and getting that experience and how they're learning themselves. And so it is tougher at home, and there's more opportunities if you can get a coaching gig, particularly in France, and there's an opportunity to move around. And there's some change there, and reputation doesn't get as damaged.
Yeah.
If a coach underperforms here or gets the sack here, he tends to be kind of written off here. It's hard to have a second coming.
Few high-profile examples of that. Nucifora as well, another one that's been recommended for a re-poaching back by Australia as well as a concept.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Munster Cast on Sunday, 1 o'clock, Thomond Park. Munster top of Pool 2 by a couple of points from Cast. Obviously the draw with Exeter and then beat Gloucester and Limerick last time out. We mentioned last week how we weren't getting the opportunity to see Joey Carberry and Conor Murray in action. We're going to get to see it this weekend. How excited, I suppose, are you about it?
Very much so. I think if you have, I'm not sure about Conway and who was the other injury concern from Andrew Conway and Mike Haley.
Yeah.
If you had Mike Haley, Conway, Earls, Farrell, Scannell, Carberry, Murray, well, you would get excited by that. And that's what Johan van Graan wants in the last couple of weeks, having Chris Farrell, Jaco Taute, who there's not been a lot said. He's had a really bad knee injury. He was superb for Munster under Rassie Erasmus. And he's, came back, played 1 or 2 games, and then was struggling with another injury or two. So I think having him back is a huge boost. Conor Oliver's back. There's a number of other injuries, but I think, I just feel Munster, even though they've had some big wins at home in the Pro 14, in Europe, fantastic away draw in Exeter. I just thought the Gloucester performance is still lingering a little bit, and they'll want to atone for that. Even though they got a good bonus point win, they'd love to get a really clinical performance on Sunday and take a bonus point win to France, even though, again, the bonus point won't be mentioned, but I think that's what they should be targeting and trying to get a really positive result. But these back-to-back games, Adrian, they're tricky. You can have a good result one week and you can get your backside open the week after very, very quickly, because it's as much about the mental side of it as well, and not dropping your standard. And you're going to get a reaction if you beat a team well one week, and you're going to go to their patch the next week. So for Munster, they have an opportunity to put a bit of daylight between themselves and Cass, and maybe, particularly in these 2 weeks, if they get 5 points on Sunday, I think it's a minimum requirement for them, and that's not being disrespectful. Cass lost last week away to Asia, at home to Asian. So how will they approach this?
Bottom club in the top 14.
Their Cass are 7th at the moment. Yeah, Asian are the bottom. Yeah, so it's you just don't know. Cass have been to Thomond Park. There's a lot of history and rivalry between Munster, Cass, and
it seems by all accounts there. And I want to come back to Sexton and Murray, Carberry. Freudian slip there, Murray, in a moment, but it does seem as if Castor actually they sort of had an unlikely path to winning the top 14 last year, and by all accounts are actually up for this European thing. I wonder, your point about the getting the 5 points in the bag sort of thing, and I'm not saying that you're saying how many tries can they score, but you're certainly suggesting they're going to get the job done. That maybe Cast have a slightly different mindset about them.
Yeah, look, it's. I think Munster are in a place now where it's hard again to beat them in Thomond Park, and that's a good thing from a Munster point of view. They beat Cass convincingly last year in round 6 to get a bonus point win to get themselves at home quarter-final against Toulon. It's tough for them. Cass are a real cup side. If they get anywhere near knockout stages, or if you have to play them in a cup game, essentially, and that's what they did last year in the top 14. They manoeuvred themselves into a final and produced an incredible performance against Montpellier to win it. They're a very good side, and they're hard and abrasive. They're very forward orientated, and a lot of good players. So they don't tend to go for world superstars. They seem to find a lot of really good French club players and maybe good overseas signings, and they're shrewd in their recruitment, and they have a real siege mentality at home. It's a hard place to go and get anything, but they're not your kind of superstar French side with this incredible budget. If you give them any sort of ability to settle into a game, they can hurt you and struggle. You'll struggle against them. Munster got a draw there last year, and as I said, they walloped them at home. And if you have a French side coming home, if you get a good start, you then start to, psychologically get inside their heads, and they sometimes, even to this day, can still throw in the towel. But, you can't underestimate them. But I think Munster just need to focus on themselves, getting their performance right. There was a lot of good stuff against Gloucester, but there was a lot of bad stuff, particularly defensively.
Right.
And that's
a concern almost, isn't it?
Yeah,
a year down the line for Van Graven.
They conceded some soft scores, and it took them a while to really get going in that game. And look, they picked their moments in the second half, and the game was won. And then Gloucester kind of dominated for the last 20-25 minutes and scored those 3 tries. And a little bit of a concern defensively. You can take all the credit and all the good stuff from the Pro 14 stuff, and that's important. But playing Edinburgh last week, and then a weekend Edinburgh side in Cork, and it was a very, very good morale boosting performance. But Europe is a little bit different. They'll know that themselves. They don't need me to tell them. But Europe is different, and it's a real challenge psychologically. Get the job done on Sunday. And for all the provinces, they've got to go away. For Munster, they're away in France next week. It's a real opportunity. If you can get 2 good results in these weekends, well, you're halfway there to getting out of the group.
Well, the thing is, if we're sitting here Monday talking about a bonus point win for Munster, nobody's going to be surprised. And like, say if you rewind 12 months and Johan van Graan's in, things look a little bit unsteady, Simon Zebo's on the way out, etc., etc. Like, does Van Graan not have to take a huge amount of credit for not only the way he's steadied the ship, but has moved it in a direction where you can probably make an argument now that Munster are perhaps better placed to win the Heineken Champions Cup than they were 12 months ago?
Yeah, you just feel that it's got to this. He's had to deal with a fair bit of stuff, Van Graan, and I think he's handled it well. I think consistency. I think there's some of the issues this year have been, and they'll still linger, is the Cardiff away game, or the away game in Glasgow in the Pro 14 and the Cardiff one. You know, 2 bad losses where Munster were bullied.
Did Sandy Park not undo that though?
It did a fair bit, but you can't. I think we need to see a couple of more of those results. There's just a sense and a feeling that they've kind of, with the injuries coming back, the people have come back in, that now is their time to maybe start, getting a bit of consistency and a real edge to them, and that's what you'd hope. So yeah, Van Graan has done a very good job, but with the squad they have now, there's a bit more pressure and expectation to say, look, hey, you've got to deliver now. We want to see Munster in the knockout stages again, and they should be. So that's why, look, you've got to be very careful. You can't. Europe is strange at times, and particularly these weekends. You saw Leinster a few years ago. They beat Northampton really convincingly. A week later, they lose at home in Lansdowne Road. So it's tricky to manoeuvre your way through this. But I think, yeah, he's done a good job, Van Graan, for sure.
Just one question that's occurred to me: who would you rather have, Luke McGrath, Johnny Sexton, or Joey Carberry and Conor Murray?
Jesus, it's a tough one, because I think you're looking at Murray and Sexton as world class, and you're looking at the other 2 players as international quality with huge promise to get better and better and better. So I think you're splitting hairs with
it's Sexton McGrath now, and it's Murray and Carberry in 3.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying about Murray and Sexton? They're probably at a level up here.
That's why his question is so good.
It is a good question. It's a hard one. It's a hard one to answer, because nobody would complain if Conor Murray was nominated for World Player of the Year as well. He was that good. So both Murray and Sexton are just on a different level, and they have been consistently, both for club and country. I'll go to Munster too anyway, because I'm a Munster one now. If you press me.
For an actual truthful answer.
Yeah, well, look, I think Carberry is going to be. I think he's going to be.
So down the track.
Down the track, and Luke McGrath. To be fair to Luke McGrath, has been brilliant for Leinster as well. So it's hard. What would you say to that?
I'd go with the Leinster pair right now.
Right now,
if you were saying,
yeah. Well, look,
if Ireland were playing, right, let's say there was a couple of injuries, right, and Ireland were playing in a World Cup final tomorrow, and you had the opportunity in the unlikely and just ridiculously hypothetical scenario that it's either one combination or the other, who would you go for?
Yeah, you're probably right. And plus, Luke McGrath and Sexton they're just on the back of winning European Cup with Leinster as well, so you're probably right there.
On the Munster pair.
Stupid question. Jesus.
You send him away on a couple of weeks' holidays, Quinny. This is what happens. He comes back with all this inspirational sort of stuff. Just on the Munster pair, like in terms of, with Murray, right, over the last number of years, the quality of 10 that he's had hasn't been to the standard that he would have wanted or Munster would have wanted. So I suppose a lot of his game has been dictated by that, and he's probably been a little bit more of a French nine almost in his capacity to run a game in a way that he might not now be required to be. How does that impact on, how does Carberry being there and running the game in the way that he can impact on Murray's game?
Well, I think you want your 10 to be dominant and vocal, and we've seen any of the 10s I've played with or against, I think they have that authority. So I think if he gets more authority out of Joey Carberry, and fairness, I thought that away Exeter game, he was brilliant in very tough circumstances for a fly half, where the game is very tight and it's hard to move the ball, and you're playing each game, with that wind and the conditions today. So I think if he's more authority and he demands more and starts kind of bossing Conor Murray as well, saying, I want the ball now, and this is what I want to do with my back line, and of course that's exactly what Conor Murray will want, rather than a coach saying, look, Conor, we want to put more emphasis on your world-class kicking game, and there's a bit more responsibility here for us to play a little bit more of a kicking game. So if Carbery kind of has that authority to step up and say, no, look, we have got Farrell is back now, and there's a superb back three for Munster as well now with a lot of pace, and that they feel a bit more confident to be more expansive. Well, of course that will help Conor Murray's game, because Conor Murray is a game, he's an instinctive player as well, and sometimes he gets kind of labelled with this world-class kicking scenario, but I think his ability around the field is world-class as well, attacking, defensive, from an attacking point of view as well. If you get Conor Murray in any sort of open space, he's very, very quick and can make a lot of good line breaks and link up with people as well.
So are you expecting to see less of the Conor Murray kicking game? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, depending on conditions and where they are on the field, but I think out the field, I think if you've got that, if they get that back line out on Sunday, well, there's no reason off good ball that and it comes down to their forwards as well, what kind of ball they present and what kind of options are there. But like I said, you want your out half to be able to read that and judge that and have that confidence to step up. And he may not get it right every time, but like you want him making the big decisions, not Conor Murray thinking I've got to slow down the breakdown now and kick. That if there's a kick, if he needs to kick as well, that Joey Carbery spots a bit of space in the backfield and demands the ball off Conor Murray, and he punts the ball himself or whatever. So look, that's exactly what Johan van Graan, Felix Jones will want. You want your 10 kind of running the game and making good decisions. I played with Rog for so long, and you could hear the barking and the orders, and he'd walk past the line out and say X is happening, and you feel you don't question that because...
Was he the only one on the pitch that was doing that?
I know, your scrum half, Strings would as well, and Tomas O'Leary when he was there, but Strings and Rog would have played so long together, and when Rue Topoki was there, he was really good at being saying, we want the ball, we're going to do something now. And so the more vocal your whole backline are, so it's Rory Scannell outside Joey Carbery as well, if he plays, and Chris Farrell looking to add to something and having a real desire to add to it. But I think they need, with the players they have now, and they have back and available for them, I think there's every reason to be hopeful that you can get a more clinical performance out of them. But defensively, I think that's where at times this year they've looked poor in some of the away games
that you talk about as well. So Munster to get it done is...
Yeah, I think so. I think they're you just get that feeling, don't you, Eoin, that there's a different feel about them. That away draw in Exeter was incredibly resilient and strong. And when you win with a bonus point win at home in round 2, playing poorly and a lot of stuff to work on.
Like they killed them at home last year. Like sometimes it could be as simple as that. It's not a lot has changed, but has it changed to the point where Castres have actually overturned the point where they can actually beat Munster at Thomond?
Yeah, I don't think so on Sunday.
Jared Fitzpatrick on YouTube says, you do know that Carbery will return to Leinster in 18 months.
He may do. I don't know.
My own heart there, Jared. And Ken Rahel has been in contact to say Cast played badly on Saturday. I was there. Talked to the players afterwards. They never switched on, in their opinion. They bring on Cockett and Toulouse in the second half, which is an error. Cast have a superb knockout round game, as you've been talking about, very coded. However, there are a few players missing. Play from the heart on for each other. Alan describes them perfectly, says Ken Rahel, adding in his 2 cents. He was at the game. He just wanted to tell us that he was at the game and that he was speaking to the players afterwards. Thanks a million.
Pleasure.
Did you manage to get your car topped up at any point during that conversation?
Topped up there, yeah. You didn't even notice it. So how many wins are we going for? I think Ulster will... I don't think they'll get the job done in the Scarlets. It's a good Ulster side, as I said. I think Munster and Leinster will get wins.
Yeah.
And I think Connacht will probably get a big win against Perpignan. Perpignan will be shocking in the top 14. Right. Struggle big time. No Paddy Jackson there tomorrow in the sports ground.
Yeah.
We'll
interesting.
See.
Yeah. Clean sweep, is that what you're...
No, I think Ulster could struggle.
Ulster, right, okay. Very good. Enjoy the weekend, Quinny. Thanks for coming in. Thanks as always on a Friday. Alan Quinlan with us. That is not quite it from us for this morning, where we do have a world exclusive coming your way, as we've been discussing a little bit earlier on. Do want to let you know about everything that's happening on Off the Ball over the weekend. A couple of live games on Premier League Live with Sky Sports as well. That's on Today FM. So Bournemouth against Liverpool available online, todayfm.com/PLL, and in the commentary box there are going to be Adam Lindsay and Ray Houghton. Manchester United against Fulham, the feature game over on the FM. That's Ian Beach and Stephen Kelly your commentary team from 2 o'clock on Today FM. Tomorrow, Kevin Sheedy as well is going to be in the boot room in conversation with Phil from 5:30. Over on News Talk and Off the Ball on Saturday, Leinster against Bath in the Champions Cup. Conor Morris and Andy Dunn are going to be your commentary team there, as you can see on your screen. Kick-off at 3:15. The show underway from 1, and then on Sunday and Off the Ball, it's the one you've all been waiting for in the Premier League this season. Newcastle up against Watford. I mean, who isn't going to be tuned in for that? Nathan and Pat Nevin are going to be there. I mean, it's Newcastle against Wolves is what it is. So the Newcastle-Watford game has been temporarily postponed, and I mean well,
that changes the whole dynamic of it now, because you've got Matt Doherty involved.
You do. It's actually a fair point.
I've changed my mind entirely on that one. I will be.
That was me slagging it off, and I feel Tommy's didn't get much sleep last night.
You look like a right mug.
Yeah, look properly mugged me off there. Tonight on Off the Ball from 7 o'clock, we've got a very special HeinekenRugbyClub.com show coming your way. This is Dolphin Rugby Club. It's at Musgrave Park, and it's going to be in the company of Gary Halpin. Mick Galway is going to be there, and Johnny Murphy as well, obviously previewing all the weekend's action as well, talking a little bit about Dolphin Rugby Club. Quinny?
Yeah, good memories down there at Musgrave Park, yeah.
Good memories, and that's probably not a great thing for Dolphin, the fact that you've got good memories there. Do you ever, from a club point of view,
we played Dolphin a few times with Shannon over the years, yeah. It's I played in a good Shannon side, so we didn't lose a lot of games, fortunately for me. But great people in Dolphin Rugby Club as well, you know.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing the...
Sunday as well, they're both 2 clubs in Musgrave Park, right. Independent Park now.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Looking forward to hearing and seeing all of that good stuff tonight. Friday Night Racing as well. Johnny Ward, John Duggan and the jockey Paul Townend are going to keep an eye out. Are going to be on the Off the Ball channels over the course of the afternoon, so check out offtheball.com and the YouTube link and all of that good stuff for that. But before we go on OTB AM this morning, we're going to bring you an interesting piece here on the MLS. Enda Coll, who's our colleague here in Off the Ball, he spent the summer over in Canada, and while he was there he documented the fan culture in the MLS, focusing on the Vancouver Whitecaps. Have a look.
I mean, there's something about supporting your local team, right? I mean, the quality of football in MLS definitely has improved over all the years. We're in a dry patch right now, I'd say. We're in a bit of a disgruntled patch in terms of support, in terms of what we're seeing on the pitch. But in general, MLS quality is, come quite high. And we just sold a player to Bayern Munich for $20 million, right? So we're looking at, we get to see guys like Alphonso Davies playing for us. We get to see the it's our local team. It's a league that's becoming more recognized internationally, and the experience that we get to create as well is real. It's you can't replace it by watching Premier League football on TV. Right? It's nothing like being in the stands and singing with a few hundred people.
And I'm the president of the Vancouver Southsiders. This is my first year as president. I was elected in December of 2017. From the beginning of the MLS era, there was a lot of issues with promises that the front office made, and during our town hall they actually said that they didn't really truly understand supporter culture when we came into the MLS. I mean, we definitely try and get creative. There's certainly roots in the English and the Premier League. It's just, it is what it is. It has to kind of come from somewhere, but I like to think that we do get creative as well, and can hold our own. It's interesting as a Manchester United supporter. I hear a lot of the same chants when I'm watching Premier League on Sunday mornings, and it just, now I know kind of where it came from. It always felt like it was ours, but there's definitely some overlap for sure.
Thing is the way MLS is set up, so it's a league with franchises, so these aren't necessarily local clubs, and the problem with that is that we lose the opportunity to have an identity that's beyond what we bring in, right? So it's, in Europe and the rest of the world, that's your local club playing, and Vancouver's, we've been around since 1974 in various guises, but the way MLS works is it's one company with 23 different branch plants around Canada and the United States. And to me, that's a really hard model to engender the kind of passion that you get in other clubs around the world. That's why supporter culture is kind of difficult here in some ways. I think, the fact is that every country in the world supports differently. Like you find, just because it's not the way they do it in England, I don't know how they do it in Ireland, right? But just because it's not the way they do it in England doesn't mean it isn't a legitimate form of support. So for sure we have song sheets and repertoires, but so does everybody else. Like there's lots of other clubs that do that too. You look at a club like Crystal Palace in the Premier League right now, Crystal Palace's support really looks a lot like what happens in MLS. It's almost like, it's very weird for England. It's a strange culture. Here in Vancouver, we've got a mix of cultures. So we've got people that support in a more European way, people that will support in a more South American way, people that support in a kind of uniquely North American way. And that reflects the nature of our league, which contains players from those countries, fans from those countries that follow our players. But go around the world, go to Japan, go to Kazakhstan, go to Namibia. I mean, the way people support football is unique to their cultures. So there isn't just one way of doing it. And we've definitely got a unique way of doing it here. You could say it's artificial. I would just say it's different from how it happens in the UK.
There's no club in Europe that I'm tied to. It's always been Whitecaps first. So, I've grown up as a soccer fan. Not necessarily, I might get flack. People call it football, right, in the rest of the world, but like in my house, it was always soccer because my dad, that's what he grew up with. So, it's always just been a big passion. Like I said, I grew up with this team and always been passionate about them. And so in 2007, I actually applied for a position of webmaster at the club and got the job. And for the club for 4 years. During that time, we won a championship. So every staff member got a ring. So I always wear this. It's nice and beat up because I wear it almost every day.
The community is definitely the best thing. People like the scarves, people like the idea of our ragtag little crew, and so they're definitely, it's not just in the lower mainland for sure.
The best thing about supporting the Whitecaps is I think the camaraderie. I mean, I think we keep coming back for the good times we have in the stands. We get to see high quality football here. There's no question that the quality is high. If you compare it to the English leagues, it's at least low championship level. And so, you get to see good football. It's your local team. It's spending 90 minutes singing and cheering for players that we respect. It's watching Canadians develop, watching, in some cases, our local boys do well and go on to other things. So, we take the good with the bad.
That looks like a pretty fun summer. Enda Call, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Eoin.
So you spent, June, July, August in Vancouver?
A little bit of May, June, July and August. Yeah, it was pretty decent. It was a little bit more fun than spending it in rainy Dublin. Anyway.
Yeah, I can imagine it was. Like we've seen there, the Whitecap sort of atmosphere. I dare say it's a bit better than I expected. I'm not sure, am I just like labelling all the MLS with one brush here?
Yeah, I mean, like we all seen the YouTube videos of your man cutting the timber. I think he's the Timberwolves in America somewhere. It's not quite as extreme as that in Vancouver, but the atmosphere is actually insanely good compared to what I expected going into the game.
Is it because it's Canada rather than the United States? Is it because I don't know, I can't put my finger on why it's better, or maybe all MLS stadiums are just really good and we're looking at it on the outside looking in, like that Atlanta United chant that came to prominence for a number of reasons a couple of years ago. Basically it was a terrible chant, is what we use to describe MLS, and maybe all the grounds are just as good as the Whitecaps.
Well, the Whitecaps are kind of separate because they'd be away out of the atmosphere of the directly in America MLS style fandom. Toronto would be kind of similar to Vancouver, I think, but there are terrible chants, but there are also very good chants, and it's just like your man said in the video, like it's just a different style of supporting your club. Like it's basically the exact same that happens in England, except they have different accents and different chants. Like a lot of the chants are very similar to what happens in England.
Yeah, we heard that in the video there. Did they put on the accent? Did they put on an affected English accent like Green Street?
They actually sing. Do you know the song Chelsea sing at the start of every game? But they don't put on the accent. It's very much this guy in the front is leading it, like in Germany, and everyone joins in.
Right. Okay. And what was your favourite song?
Definitely the Jewish song, the one they use in Bar Mitzvahs where they start jumping around. It's in the video.
And was that on the song sheet? Did you get a song sheet?
I didn't get a song sheet. Summer of '69 was the song on the song sheet. And the song sheets actually don't work. They're terrible. Like, that was the worst part of the whole entire game, when they took out the song sheets, because nobody knew the words. Everyone was singing off the sheet, whereas when they got into the actual chants that they're used to singing, that's when the atmosphere actually picked up a bit.
Are they any good, the football team?
They're all right. They're decent. They have this one guy, Alphonso Davies, who's signed for Bayern Munich. I think he's...
Dortmund, isn't it?
No, Bayern Munich. 25 million. I think he's going over now in January. He is a step above the rest. Like, he's definitely a person to look out for in the future. Other than that, they're a kind of team of journeymen. That they're kind of mid-table MLS. Like, they're not going to be pushing on for it. They don't seem to have the budget for that. But apart from that, it was a decent game. Like, it was as spending a day in the pub, or maybe Irish people could learn from.
Yeah, as good as a day at the pub or the beach. That's high praise indeed of an MLS game. Like, you obviously, you're a big Finn Harps fan. How does it go? The immediate thing I'm thinking there is like, God, there's a Canadian man who's attending. Okay, it's not a Canadian league. It's the MLS. We can't compare the MLS to the League of Ireland, but still, it's in a hotbed of football, which isn't really a hotbed of football. That is Canada. We're a far bigger football country per capita than Canada is, but yet there is a number of fans who are very satisfied with the structure that they have and the league they have and the team that they have there. Is there something we can learn from that?
Well, that's actually something that it was one of the first things that I thought of when I looked into it. Looked at this stadium that they have. First of all, it's a state-of-the-art stadium. I think it holds like 40,000 people, and soccer is only like their fourth most popular sport there. They've got the Vancouver Canucks that play right beside their stadium, couldn't be any closer. They've got the Seattle Seahawks just down the road, 2 hours away in the NFL, and they've got their own football team as well in the Canadian Football League. So they're competing with other sports the same as the League of Ireland would be competing with the likes of Gaelic. So it is something that we could learn from, that while soccer is part of our culture, it doesn't seem to be part of our culture that we go and attend games, because on a Friday night, I think Joe Malloy alluded to this one time when we were speaking about the League of Ireland in the show, that it's never something that actually comes into your mind unless you're a League of Ireland diehard. That, we go down to Dalymount Park and go watch Bows for the night. It's always, we head out for a few pints. Like, it's a completely different culture here when it comes to attending League of Ireland games.
But you got a sense that in Vancouver, the soccer culture was very much pervading the culture of just enjoying yourself. Like, you could feel that there was a game going on match days.
Yeah, it's massive. Like, they start off, before they even go to the stadium, they go to an Irish pub called the Blarney Stone, and then they all gather in the square, which is about 2 miles away from the stadium, and all the fans walk to the stadium together. So there's about roughly around 500, 600 of the fans walking down the street, taking up the street, occupying it, and then everyone comes out from the shop windows and kind of joins in. And there's a square where 4 roads meet just before the stadium. It's about 500 metres away from the stadium. That's where the 4 different fan clubs meet before the match. So they all gather together and walk to the stadium together. So it's a real buzz on match day.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Did you get a tattoo? Are you part of the firm?
Not quite yet. Not quite yet. I didn't get initiated. I didn't partake in any of the activities that were involved in that.
Well, we appreciate the insight into the fishbowl that is Vancouver football. Thanks a million for producing the video. It is only December now. I hope you had a good summer in Vancouver, but it was worth the wait. End a call from Donegal. Thank you very much. Big Finn Harps fan. But that's the final thing I wanted to ask you. Which is better, going to Finn Harps games or going to Vancouver games?
it's a lot warmer in Vancouver, I'll put it that way, than going up to the tin pot that is Finn Park. But they're building a new stadium, so hopefully it might compete with Vancouver soon.
You need some underground heating is what I'm hearing there. And thanks a million. That's all we've got time for this week on OTB AM. We're back on Monday morning from 7:45 AM. Off the Ball is back in your radios tonight from 7 o'clock and across the weekend as well. We'll chat to you later. Bye-bye for now.
OTB AM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.